Hello, Coach Holmes here, and today we're going to be talking about volumes of pyramids and cones. Now, we already know how to find surface area for them, but this time we're going to figure out volume. And like I said before, surface area basically covers the outside part of these figures. But when we're talking about volume, we're talking about how much space is inside this three-dimensional figure. So like I said before, if I were to fill this up with water, how much space and how much water will be contained in this pyramid. And the same thing could be said for the cone. Okay? So it could be either or when it comes to volume. Okay? We gotta be able to find both. Now, they're pretty similar, but there's some significant difference. Or at least there's only one big difference. For a pyramid, it's 1/3, 1/3 times base times height. Okay? So what's funny is that it's actually 1/3 of a regular prism. This is how we actually determine volumes for pyramids. Because no matter what actually happens is that if you actually take the pyramid, fill it up with water, and put it inside of a prism, it'll actually be 1/3 of the prism. So you have to do 2 more times just to fill up the prism with a pyramid. Okay? That's one unique thing about pyramids, is that it's actually 1/3 of a prism. Now, again, we know B is to be the area of the base. And H is the height. Okay, that's what we know for sure. We know that B is the area of the base, depending on the base, H is the height. And I say that because I can have 2 different pyramids right here, but look at the bases. One's a triangle, the other one's a square. And another one could be a rectangle. But obviously, this pyramid, the base, to find the base of this is going to be a lot different to find the base of this square pyramid as well. Now, one big difference between cone and pyramid as far as the volume goes is simply the fact that it's going to go 1/3 pi r squared times h. So the big difference is that we're still going to be given pi, r, and h. Because if you remember, a cone, the base of a cone is always a circle. So instead of putting b here, we're just using pi r squared. So again, we know pi to be 3.14, r is the radius, and h is the height. So that's what we know for sure, and that's what we need to keep tabs on and keep track of. All right. So if I want to find the volume for this pyramid right here, now notice that again, I'm given the slant height. I got to be able to find the height of this figure. So it's split in half. So so I can say that this length is going to be 3. This length is 5. And I got to find this length right here. And we're going to call that not X, but H. So I still got to be able to use Pythagorean theorem for it. So I can do 3 squared plus h squared equals 5 squared. Well, 3 squared is 9 plus h squared equals 25. Subtract 9 from both sides. H squared equals 16. Take the square root. That leaves me with h equals 4. So the height of this is 4. So now I can go ahead and use my formula because I now know what h is. So I can do 1/3. Now I do gotta find the base. Remember, it's base times length times width, which is 6. So 6 times 6 equals 36. So I'm doing 1/3 times 36 times 4, which gives us, if I multiply it all out, 48. And this is 48 meters cubed. And remember, it's cubed because it's volume and not area. Because volume is more of a three-dimensional measurement. Now, I want to find this cone. Now, luckily, we have the height right here. So I can just go ahead, I have the height and I have the radius. So I can go ahead and plug those in. So 1/3 times 3.14 times 6 squared, let me rewrite that, 6 times 8. So I can just multiply all this out. Well, first I want to square the 6, which gives me 36 times 8. Now I can multiply it all out. So 1/3 times 3.14 times 36 times 8, 301.44. Yeah. And that's my volume right there. So my volume for this cone is 301.44. Okay. Now, let's look at this pyramid real quick. So again, I'm given the slant height here. I have, if I know this is 5, I gotta be able to figure out what this height is right here. I gotta be able to determine what the height is. But luckily, if it's dead center right here, then it's gonna be half of that, which is 2.5. So 2.5 squared, and again, I gotta use Pythagorean theorem. H squared equals H squared. 2.5 squared is 6.25 plus H squared equals 64. Subtract 64 from 6.25. $57.75. I want to take the square root of that. And we're going to say 7.6 for rounding. Because originally, in the calculator, it shows it as 7.599, but we're going to say 7.6 just to round up. So, now that I know what my H is, all I got to do is find the area of the base, which in this case, it's 5 times 5, which is 25. So 1/3 times 25 times 7.6 is going to give me 63.3 repeating centimeters cubed. And this will be the volume of my pyramid. Okay, so remember, that's how much space is inside the pyramid. That's what volume tells us. Next, and lastly, we want to do this cone. Now again, I don't have height, I have what we call a slant height. Now I do have my radius, so I gotta be able to find the height before I can even move forward. So, remember, this is shaped like a right triangle, so I can use Pythagorean theorem still. 5 squared plus H squared equals 13 squared. 5 squared is 25, plus H squared is 169. subtract 25 from both sides. H squared equals 144. Take the square root. H equals 12. So the height of this is going to be 12. So that means that, not that base, sorry, pi r squared times h. So that means I'm going to replace this h with 12 instead of 13 because I need to use my regular height and not my slant height. So 1/3 times 3.14 times 5 squared times 12. And see, I almost made that mistake. Almost made that mistake. So I'm going to square the 5 just to do PEMDAS. So 1/3 times 3.14 times 25 times 12. And that's going to give me 314 meters cubed. So, biggest thing that we got to remember is that when it comes to volume, it's 1/3 of the base times height for a pyramid, and 1/3 times pi r squared times h. So the biggest thing we got to remember is that with pyramids and cones, they're basically 1/3 of prisms and cylinders. They're 1/3 of it. So the important thing is to remember is that while yes, the formula is kind of the same, the big difference is that a pyramid is going to be 1/3, and so will a cone. So the biggest thing we got to remember is that it's 1/3 times base times height for a pyramid, and cones are 1/3 times pi r squared times h. Thank you and have a good day.